On today's Soundiron session, we're going to be breaking down a track inspired by the dark, minimalist, and haunting music of the Gone Girl soundtrack, so stick around. What's going on, everyone? Craig here from Soundiron, and in today's Soundiron session, we're going to be breaking down a track that I wrote that was inspired by the haunting and minimalist score for Gone Girl, composed by Trent Reznor and Atticus. Their approach to sonic storytelling, emotional detachment, beauty, and tension that just feels slightly off really shaped the way that I built this piece. So it's a little bit longer, so instead of playing the entire track and then breaking down sort of how I approached it, I thought we could just dive right in and just start talking about some of the virtual instruments that I used, how I layered different instruments together. All right, so the way this track kicks off is I'm using our Vibraphone Effects, which we just came out with. So this library has a lot of really awesome sound design as well as some really awesome vibraphone effects. The most detailed vibraphone effects you'll probably find anywhere. So let's just go ahead and just play how this starts off with just this bowed crystal ambience. And this is just really to have this kind of subtle, ominous sound to it. It's very minimal, and this track's all about just building. So let's just go ahead and just play the sound by itself. And you can hear it's got some studio delay, some shimmer, and some auto pan. So you can hear it kind of waving back and forth through the stereo field. And then we have this sound from Vibraphone Effects. This is using the rubber hard mallet type. So those two layers just by themselves honestly kind of hold up on their own as far as just really having this kind of melodic aspect to it, but a little bit of this kind of unease, and that's really what I was going for. And then some other instruments that I'm using is from our Harmonic Tides. I really love this library. It's got a lot of really awesome string effects and string effects and sound design too. So, and with this one, this is the Tides and it's the In Smoke All. So what's cool about this is that you can use the mod wheel and blend between these different layers. So if you just play a single note, you just hear all this kind of textural string waving harmonics. And then as you go up on the mod wheel, just a really beautiful sound. And I wanted to use this for really just creating this kind of wavy sort of texture in the background. So let's just hit play and then we'll kind of go up a few bars, and then once we see some other layers coming in, we'll check those out. All right, so I think that's a good place to stop. So down here, you'll see that we have some other sounds coming in. We have this sub bass, which is just supporting that low end. And then this is this subtle ARP. And this is from using our Grand El Campanile piano. I believe I just used the sub synth, yeah, and it's just set to an arpeggiator. So if we just play a random key, so it's just panning back and forth. So if we want to listen to that by itself. And with this, it's tempo sync, so it's going to be going to the tempo. The Gone Girl soundtrack does an amazing job of blending organic and synthetic textures, so I really wanted to incorporate those types of instruments with stuff like marimbas, vibraphones, also some piano, some organic string textures, as well as some synthetic textures with like pulses and stuff like that. So I also have some of these other harmonic tide layers in here, and what these are doing are more sound design type of effects. So if we go here and solo this, still very wavy, these wavy swells. So if we hear that with this other harmonic tide track, and then if we go up here a little bit, you'll hear that we bring in this other harmonic tides swells texture. So let's check that out. So it just has this very haunting and minimalist aspect to it. I didn't really use a lot of tracks. You know, with certain types of scores like these, if I'm trying to do something inspired by it, I try to keep it as minimal as possible and really using sounds that bring this kind of emotional quality to it. And I think with these types of instruments, it really does a great job of that. So right here, you can see that we have a little bit of a combination of various tuned percussion. So we have the marimba, as well as the vibraphone effects. So let's just listen to these by themselves. Then all together. So with some of these instruments, I'm really trying to have this kind of rhythmic and hypnotic feel to it, even with this combination of the organic tuned percussion and the more synthetic synth pulses. It really helps kind of bring them together. And that's what I was really trying to do, is meld these different elements together, because Trent Reznor, you know, and the stuff he's done with 9 Inch Nails over the years, and like, especially if you've heard The Fragile, like so much of that stuff just sounds so cinematic. And when you hear these types of scores, you can instantly tell who was part of it. So I really wanted to try and capture that, and you know, hopefully I got close, or at least somewhere in the ballpark. But yeah, I really wanted to try to capture that kind of haunting minimal sound. And then as we move on to more of the middle of the track, I wanted to bring in some other more organic instruments. But the thing about this instrument that I'm using is it's organic, but it's also sound design. So this is from our Sonosphere's Direction. It's just this really beautiful sound design piano. So let me play for you just the piano. It has this like felt sound to it, but still very atmospheric and sound designy. So the piano has this very kind of haunting sound to it, with these other string textures really just creating this organic sort of bed. So I want to solo for you just the strings. These are from Hyperion Strings Ensemble. I got some flautando sustains as well as a ponticello sustain for the basses. So let's just listen to the strings by themselves. They really have this beautiful, soft sound. And flautando is one of my favorite articulations because it just sounds so delicate. So let's check this out. So these are the first violins. And then you can see we slowly start bringing in some other string sections like the second violins and the violas. And then we're going to bring in some cello flatandos. Then we got some bass ponticellos. Now I want to play that again, but with these Harmonic Tides. This is just the one sort of main kind of more melodic sounding patch from Harmonic Tides, but I want you to hear how this sounds layered with the strings because it sounds really cool. Because you hear Harmonic Tides has this sort of harmonic-y kind of gliss wavering bed underneath. And it's just a great patch for really just having this kind of like adding a little bit of like sparkle to any kind of strings, just to give them a little bit more of that organic movement. Now let's check that out with these Harmonic Tide swells. Really adds that depth. So it's like you have all these beautiful strings that really have this kind of fragile sound to them, but then this distorted synth element on top of it, which it sounds like there's some beauty, but also some darkness within the beauty. It's kind of what I was trying to go with that. So let's hear that together also with the piano. And then we have this other Harmonic Tides element right here. Just adding this very faint kind of melody in the back. And then I also have this little rhythmic groove in the back with Glitch Hero, and I'm using this as just more of kind of this really just kind of a unique, weird sort of clicky, ticky sort of rhythm in the back. So if you want to hear how that sounds by itself, let's go ahead and check that out. Just so you can hear, because it's very subtle in the mix, but it's there just to kind of add a little bit of this sort of, I don't know, unusual kind of arpeggiation in the back. So let's check that out. And this is using some studio delay, some shimmer, and some auto pan. And then in the mix. And then right here, it kind of breaks a little bit and then goes into more of like a solo piano type of passage with some strings in the back. And I really like the way this piano part turned out. I was trying to go for that very sort of like open and exposed Trent Reznor type of piano sound. And then the resolve just gives it this sort of needing to resolve. And I really love the way that kind of stuff sounds, especially when you hear it in context, because it just sounds peaceful when you listen to it. Pretty much playing within the confines of C major, but then kind of stepping out, and then you're going more into C minor. So if you have this kind of so sort of kind of going in and out just for that one note though, just to feel like you have this comfort, but then it kind of slightly goes out on you and then back. So let's listen to that again. All right, so that about wraps up the Soundiron session. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you like these types of videos, give it a like, subscribe to our channel. Around 90% of you who watch are not subscribed, so definitely subscribe, stay up to date on what we got going on. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see on future Soundiron sessions, whether it's various film scores that you like, video game scores, or just anything that you think would be cool to do a composing video on. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon. Bye.